Hello and welcome to New Reality for Insurance Webinars. I am Itthipat Advisory Partner, KPMG Thailand. So no question that the COVID-19 pandemic hit very hard at global scale. Every country, every business, and insurance have no exceptions. Although today we have the better hope after hearing the recent successful vaccine developments. But as of today, the world has more than 59 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 with more than 1.4 million deaths. So the pandemic has not only made a loss of many lives around the world, but also affected macroeconomic conditions to remain tough for the next few years. So when asking about the COVID-19 impact insurance industry or insurance market, let me use a KPMG 4R framework to just refresh what all companies had experienced and they are now still on the journeys. During the phase 1 reactions, if you remember, during the lockdown period, the company has to make the bold steps to transition to remote work with the speed in consideration of workforce safety net. Phase 2 resilience, we all encounter uncertain economic and living conditions like the business shutdowns, liquidity shock, and the fear of job securities. So insurers need to adopt a viable service delivery model to effectively manage the business to continue to provide the service and support their customers. And phase 3, recovery. Many businesses were back to open and reopen, and we start to see clearly indication of we call the new normal. We observe the customer behavior changes due to the social distancing, health, and hygiene awareness. New customer expectation more in product and services. That's why we're looking for the phase 4 new realities. Of course, the crisis opened a new era for insurers to rethink the future of insurance. And today, I'm pleased to welcome Erik Bleekrode, Head of Insurance, KPMG China and ASPAC, to join me to share his perspective, insight from Asia market on implications of the future insurance in the new realities. So welcome, Erik.
Good afternoon, Itthipat. It's a pleasure to be with you, and good afternoon, everybody on the line. Looking forward to a fruitful hour, and I hope we'll be able to share some of our mutual experiences and discussions we've been having with our clients in Asia, but also across the world.
Thank you. So today, Erik, we will discuss the 5 key topics. So let's start with the first topics. From your interactions and conversations with the CEO, executive, and senior client partners around Asia over the last 6 months, I assume you're going to have a lot of the virtual meeting on the Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever virtual interactions you can have. So how COVID-19 has made significant changes in the CEO priorities? Over to you, Erik.
Thank you very much, Kuniti. But yes, the world has changed for everybody, including us, and the benefit is more events like this where it's easier to dial in people from different locations, but there are also definitely a number of downsides. I think if you look on the screen that we just put in front of you, that is a really nice summary of, I would say, new priorities for financial services leaders. Interestingly enough, this research was done by our Australian colleagues, but I think it's true the world over. And I think many of these topics will not be new to you, will not be a surprise to you, because we've all been impacted by them in different ways and all sort of in our own ways. I think we've seen immediate responses, because to my mind, if I think about the past year in insurance, it's not just been COVID. It's been COVID in combination with a macroeconomic or a geopolitical situation that was not always clear to everybody. It's gone together with a big shock in financial markets, big impact on discount rates, and to what extent, some of that is correlated with COVID, but maybe not everything. But all of it has impacted our sector. And that has meant that there has been an immediate impact on demand, interaction with customers, interaction with agents and brokers, massive increases in claim centers, call centers that had to deal with questions from customers, discussions around coverages on specific policies. While all companies, I think, were also going through their own shock of having to move their people to a working from home environment, dealing with the stress in their own organizations around what this meant for individuals and their families, making it all work technologically, which when I think back of it has been absolutely incredible how quick that move has gone. And I think that's been the same experience everywhere and in every country. But the interaction with customers changed dramatically. Interaction with distribution channels changed dramatically. There was immediate pressure on cost, obviously, because the world changed. So every financial projection and ambition for 2020 had to be revised and had to be rethought. Nobody knew how long all of that was going to take. So I think there have been a ton of immediate actions and responses, and then especially when discount rates started dropping, obviously regulators got even more on top of the industry than they were before. We've seen a lot of scrutiny and a lot of additional reporting requirements to regulators in all countries to basically deal with the combined effect of everything that was happening. But obviously, after the initial stress or after the dealing with the initial change situation, of course, it's very much a matter of managing through this new situation and looking ahead into the future of where we see changes and where we've seen changes and where things need to change to be successful in the longer term as well. And that, I think, is what we're very much in right now, in deploying initiatives and deploying all of those plans that have been put together over the past months, and we've seen an acceleration in transformation, digital transformation, digital innovation that has often been a topic of conversation, but not necessarily a topic of immediate action. I think right now this has been a shock for the whole system. Everybody has had to spring to action. And then lastly, of course, I think this has had an enormous impact on personal interaction, personal stories. Everybody has been impacted by this event, but I also find it surprising and fascinating that everybody has been impacted in a different way. I don't think I've ever heard so many variations of the same story if you talk to people around what they've been confronted with and how they have had to deal with the fallout, whether on a personal level, on a business level, on a professional level, and especially for all of us as leaders in the industry, I think that has also been a real appeal to our leadership and to work with colleagues, help colleagues and clients to manage through a situation like this. And also going forward, leadership and culture are very high, I think, on everybody's agenda in terms of analyzing and understanding where this needs to change, where people need to develop, and what is needed to be successful in a world that is, as you said in the introductory clip, which is not going to be the same as it was before.
Good. Thank you so much, Erik. I think one clear thing that you just mentioned about the people. I think the crisis required a compassionate people leaderships, and we saw the many CEOs who caring and becoming the people leaders to protect employee well-being and also kind of build the robust and motivate their team and employee during the crisis. So let's move to the second topic to talk about insurance solvency, capital, and investment. So I'd like to share some information in Thailand, for example. When we're looking back the capital ratio over the last 3 years until the quarter this year during the epidemic happenings, So there were no risks of the insurance company insolvencies due to the fact that the most insurer in Thailand maintains the higher ratio than the required. However, during the pandemics, while life and non-life insurers have the significant asset portfolios, but the life and annuity insurers, it kind of they have particular vulnerable in terms of they need to match the longer duration of the asset portfolios with the generally longer duration liabilities. So of course that you will look at the interest rate under the low interest rate environments to compare with the contract guarantees in the past. So the roll rate interest is quite challenges and go declining. So that is it seemed to make the challenge for the insurance companies to find the good strategy for the investment to cope with these challenges, and also linked to the product portfolio as well. So Erik, I'm certain that you observe a similar trend in other markets as well. So what are the possible actions for insurers to deal with solvency, capital, and investment? Over to you.
Well, if there was one simple answer, I think everybody would have solved the problems already. But of course, it's a myriad of issues that you are addressing there, right? I think if I sort of peel them off, it's the asset side of the balance sheet, the actual investments that have been impacted by changes on financial markets, and that led to a lot of uncertainty around how long and how deep those implications would be. And with the knowledge of today, we know that a lot of the financial markets have rebounded pretty significantly, but especially at the time when it happened, and I would say through to June, July, I think it was anyone's guess what the recovery pattern of the financial markets would look like. And that has significantly impacted, I think, how people have been looking at their exposures, their risk profiles, what assets they wanted to invest in and needed to invest in. But I think more importantly, as you were saying, the impact of the change in discount rates has been, I would say, much more meaningful on the valuation of the insurance contract liabilities, and probably more so even in Asia than in other parts of the world, because of the significant level of guarantees that a lot of the Asian savings products have in them. And obviously the value of those guarantees have increased significantly as interest rates went down, and that has put a lot of strain on the system and a lot of strain on a lot of insurers. And I think that have all been monitoring their solvency position on a daily basis, and sometimes having to report to regulators on a very, very frequent basis. Not necessarily every insurer was equipped to do that. So I think there's been a lot of stress in a lot of insurers to be able to produce numbers that frequently and that quickly. And it has definitely led to, I think, discussions around reassessing the overall risk profile, reassessing what to do with duration and duration mismatches. I know a lot of insurers have started thinking more actively about their hedging strategies to deal with interest rate risk. And of course, it's been, I think, one of the elements that has also driven the discussion around product innovation and maybe additional reflection on how have products been designed in the past, and how should products or how could products be designed in the future. And I would say that's not just around capital and interest rate and financial markets, but I think it has definitely contributed to some of those discussions.
So very good. Thank you, Erik. I think you mentioned the couple point that I think it linked to the next topic regarding the portfolios mix to re-evaluating, and also the product innovations. So that brings to the third topic to talk about revenue size, I think. So what should be the revenue recovery strategies in response to changing in customer behaviors? So I might please share some story in Thailand about change in Thai market behavior that we think it can driving the new opportunities. So the pandemics created a new need for the COVID insurance with the 8.5 million sold And more impressive is about with the first time buying this insurance through the online channel only. So such a results within a short time period have demonstrated a positive shift in customer perspective in the need of health protections and also use of digital for insurance products. And it brings to another studies in KPMG's about the global customer experience survey that we conduct around the globe, including Thailand across industries. That we see the key customer change behaviors. One is about they're shifting the spending to more considered essential products to cope with the economic values for this reason. And second, about the digital savvy customers. We observe a significant increase in the e-commerce market, plus the effect of COVID-19, working from home, and changing lifestyle. So it become boosting the online shopping significantly in Thailand. And trust become the crucial factor for customer to purchase. And that's make a point for the insurance to revisit the brand value to address the customer. So we found interesting on the right side on the screen when we conduct the customer experience surveys about the pillars to build customer experience scores. In comparison across the industry, insurance industry, we have the most, I say, higher in empathy pillar. And we look at the pillar that we have the score less than other industry is about the time and effort. This is about just sampling of the survey that we conduct during the period, but it implies something about for the insurance, they have opportunities to improve time effort for the customer to access their product and services. So I'd like to get back to you, Erik. What do you observe revenue strategies in connection with the customer behavioral changes in Asian market?
Thank you, Kuniti. But yeah, I'll maybe first go back to your previous slide. I think to me that is a real good illustration of how COVID has also massively amplified, I think, the understanding of the importance of insurance to society and the importance of insurance to people's livelihoods and protection. And the massive uptake on a new product like that is quite incredible if you think about it. Building a new project, creating a new product, and having so much interest from customers to actually buy it straight away. So I think in that sense, it's also good to step back and reflect that I think the reason of existence for insurance that has only become more prominent and more relevant in the past year. And that I think creates a lot of opportunity for the industry to live up to that expectation, but to also, in a way, capitalize on that increased recognition with their customers on how important insurance is and how much insurance can contribute to people's well-being if adverse events like this occur. I think there are a couple of things to my mind when it comes to revenue. I think it's the second thought, right? I mean, the first thing is how to deal with the situation, how to deal with policyholder questions and claims around existing policies, but then clearly everybody also had to deal with the fact that they had stopped selling business. Maybe not as abruptly as some other industries, but I think the industry by and large has been severely impacted over a period of time by selling new products. And I think there are two answers to that question. One is around the what, and one is around the how. I would say is the what in terms of what products are people really in need of has changed. Some products have become less relevant, at least in the short term. I don't think people have bought a lot of travel insurance over the past year, but other products have become much more relevant, related to a different way of working. For example, in terms of liabilities at home, relating to cyber risks that people were much more exposed to now than they were in the past. So rethinking what customer customers really need, I think has been a big theme for a lot of insurers, and rethinking what products they should promote more actively than others. And the second one, of course, the how, is how are you able to actually sell? And I think the reality in this part of the world is that a lot of business still gets transacted through the agency channel, and obviously the agency channel has been massively impacted by the inability to connect with customers, or to connect with customers face to face. And that's, to my mind, one of the big drivers why we've seen such an acceleration around digital initiatives and digital transformation. And a lot of that, I think, has been around enabling the distribution channel to better connect to customers. You were talking about how those new COVID policies were all sold online. I think all companies that had a strong online presence or had a strong digitized distribution channel have been able to much more quickly regain their footing and commence or recommence selling new products compared to those companies that were much more dependent on face-to-face interaction or paper-based processes. So I think a lot of the speed at which people have been able to, or at which companies have been able to pick up revenues again, has been about how digitally adept they already were. So I think those were sort of two big drivers to my mind.
So thanks, Erik. I think would like to add some points around the customer needs, and you say about the product innovations that we see there are some insurers that design the story of the customer engagements. So they call like customer-driven approach, and in order to define the product strategies, they analyze the customer lifetime values to maximize exchange value to profit, or project the profit margin that captured during the customer lifetimes. And then from customer perspective, of course, and in connection with their product design innovations. So it could be the features or some metrics that to measuring about the lifetime value of the customer. As we can see, the increasing of the customer experience expectation that drive the new demands in the new realities. So I'd like to move to the fourth topic to talk about Interim operating model, and with the rise of the digital and flexible working from anywhere. So one unique aspect currently make the pandemics differentiate from other financial crises is about social distancing. And such things is pushing the companies, number one, to scale remote work, and number two, to accelerate digitization, as you mentioned. It means increasing the operational digital footprints and connectivity with customers and the employees. In short term, we observe many insurers have implemented digital with the speed in the critical areas such as underwriting, claims, policy services, IT, and human resource to ensure there are no business disruptions. So Erik, what do you observe and anticipate the shifts of insurance operating model in the new realities? Over to you.
Or the entire value chain of an insurer that has been impacted by COVID-19 in different ways. But if you look at a simple way to look at the value chain of an insurance company, all the way from product development through to claims management and asset management, and then underneath all the different support activities, all of them have been impacted. Some severely, some have been severely interrupted. Some have been impacted temporarily, but won't necessarily need to change significantly going forward. So I think if you could talk almost probably 10 minutes around each of them and discuss why and how they've been changed. I think if I look at the ones that have been that have been addressed or that have been picked up in the past 6 months by most of the industry. I think those are around a topic like we talked about, product development, as in, do we need to change features in our products? Do we need to rethink some of our products, given the fact that the world is changing? The other one, the big one, is around distribution and sales, which comes back to connectivity with the distribution channel, enabling the distribution channel to start selling again or to continue to sell products. I think there's a big spike initially in claims management and claim centers in terms of dealing with the demands, particularly in call centers, to deal with people with questions around whether certain events were covered or not, claiming back money very quickly, whether on the health side or on the non-life side. But that's been more of an operational spike that I don't think will immediately lead to a big transformation or investment to do that differently, because by and large, I think most companies have been able to divert enough capacity into those functions to be able to deal with the spike in customer demand. But then again, on the people side, for me, that's the big one that a lot of people and a lot of companies will need to really think through, because that's where the longer term question is. If you want to make fundamental changes to the operating model and to digitally enabling a distribution channel and to digitally connecting with customers and to dealing with an organization that works much more from home than they have in the past. And I think that's one area where I think all of us have been working much longer from home than we thought at the beginning, especially with all these different waves that we are now going through, working from home, going back to the office, going back to working from home again. That completely changes how we need to think about managing office space, but also managing our people. And how do we manage performance? What does good performance look like? How do you motivate people? How do you build a team? How do you onboard new colleagues if everybody is working from home? I think we, as an organization, have had to deal with that as well with a lot of our newer recruits, and those are all challenges we've never really had to deal with. So those are areas where I think there have been sort of immediate needs that need to be addressed. But ultimately, every part of this value chain gets impacted and has gotten impacted in some way or form.
So thanks, Erik. Maybe just a couple of points to supplement to your sharing things. One thing I think the key important is about the need for the fast-paced product development and flexibility in the product coverage. Because the agility and speed is, for example, in the COVID-19 insurance in Thailand example, that allow some company can capture opportunity quickly. So example, in non-life, enhance the product offering designs with rider and change in the terms. Pay-per-use customer stay home more and die less, example, or the travel insurance with the pandemic coverage. In our country example, tourism it hit so hard during the pandemics and difficult for people to travel outside the countries. So our government stimulate more about budget and to promote domestic travel for Thai people to travel in Thailand. So at least in next year, we still see this a lot of budget spent and on this area. So that is one opportunity that whoever can equip the products development to meet the expectation need of the customer can capture opportunities. Another one on the distribution, I think, as you also mentioned about the direct to customer, eventually it will be the key distribution channel for protection products, enabling by the digital capabilities. So we see the digital broker platforms happening in Thai market as well, pretty much on the non-life side, but we see the trends that in particular, the linkage with omni-channel experience in retail. So it could be the future trend of platform that insurance can take a look and more strategic look at the ecosystem and partnership with the distribution or partner products that have linkage with the customer demands more from the lifestyle changes. So let's move to the fifth topic to talk about today. I think it's important when we talk about the future of the insurance workforce. A couple stat research that I like to highlight. According to the World Economic Forum Job Research Summit, the Future of Jobs survey found that 40% of the current workers' core skills are expected to be changed in the next 5 years. What it tells us is about to accelerate the reskilling revolution across the sector, and insurance is no exceptions. And also another research from KPMG CEO Outlook 2020, it found that 64% of employees want flexibility from workplace with the COVID-19 impacts. So get back to you, Erik. Why it's important of rethinking of the workforce of the future and the talent acquisitions?
I think we talked about before, and I think there are a couple of dimensions. One is we need to get used to a different way of working with our people, within our teams, as leaders, as I mentioned before. So how do we do that, and how do we do that in a way that remains effective, productive, and where we maintain company culture and get everybody to work in the same way. I think there is a big expectation with everybody right now that this is going to become much more normal and much more accepted part of how we spend our time and how we split our time between work and non-work. But that balance, I think a lot of people have struggled with as well. Because if you work in one room and you live in the other room of your house, it's much harder to switch off, and it's much harder to define the boundaries between working and not working. And I think there is a big job for employers there as well to help people navigate that challenge. You talked about talent and opportunity. I think there's also, and we haven't, I don't think we've cracked that yet, but the fact that working through teams or working remotely has now sort of been proved to work and does not lead to disruption. What does that actually mean for access to talent? Is that bounded or constrained by national boundaries or cities, or is it actually, does it mean that the talent pool that you can have access to as an organization is actually much bigger, either for specific tasks or specific topics, or even for specific teams or departments? I can see a lot of opportunity on how you could think about things differently and how you could potentially organize things differently, maybe more efficiently, maybe cheaper, but maybe also of a higher quality, because you're able to access talent that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to access. I think for me, the point there would be that that's right now is, I think, just in a thinking stage, as everybody is still working through the current situation in the current business as usual situation. But I think there's a big topic and a big thing to think through. And then I think one of the things that we're also still trying to work through is how do we balance digital interaction and personal and face-to-face interaction. For me, I found it on the one hand remarkable how quickly it went. On the other hand, I also understand it, because where we know each other or where you know who you're interacting with, it doesn't really matter that you're interacting online or that you haven't each other in person for a long time. But meeting new people or meaningfully interacting with people that you have not met before is a lot harder when you are only communicating online. So I think finding what the right balance is between online and digital interaction and personal interaction, and how that then translates into traveling, which is still a word that not a lot of us are using these days. or international traveling, how is that going to evolve and how is that going to develop? So I think there are still quite a few question marks that we need to investigate or find out as we work through, because this is new to all of us. And then I think there are some operational aspects that are linked to working in a different way, for example, around security. If everybody works in different places, how does it actually work with digital risk? And if I speak to my colleagues in our cyber team, they said that, well, there was a period, especially in, say, the first 2 to 4 months of the crisis, where everybody was so eager and keen to read everything they could read about news and information around this pandemic, that they were much more likely to click on any link that looked remotely interesting. But you can imagine that from a cyber risk perspective, that has maybe created risks that weren't there before. So I think there are also a number of technological and security issues that we probably need to resolve a bit more structurally in a post-COVID world.
So thanks, Erik. I think the people, I'd like to add a point, maybe back to regarding the remote work, and in terms of the new way of working that allow the company to offer more hybrid option for some particular role that more applicable. And I believe that it's not the 100% that people prefer to work remote. You still have some still need to work or hybrid, like some day on site, some day remote, for example. And also about the innovation way of working that we're talking about the products. And Interim, it quite have a legacy technology and system as well. And sometimes when we try to innovate some process, a new thing, it quite have strugglings because of the limitation of many things. So perhaps this is a good opportunity for insurer to strategically think about the resource in terms of the team that have more nimble and able to go to design operation and new products journeys that can leverage about the new way of working, flexibility in terms of the team collaborations, and plus the new talents that require more digital capability to join the team as well. I see the diversity and inclusion is quite as important nowadays, and in insurance company in particular, that we have legacies in terms of the system and some processes, and even the customer services. If you talk about in the past, right, we talk about customer service in terms of the back end. But nowadays, when we have the element aspect of the customer expectation and customer experience, I feel that every roles, even the customer services, can help to be the part of the driving the business growth in terms of the giving experience good for the customer, and plus some product offering that can be embedded within the part of their services, for example. So I think it's very good have a conversation in those 5 key topics. So I would like to kind of summarize the future focus for insurers according to key question that we discussed to be the 6 themes to recap our key topics today. The business and continuity and resilience, I think we already have a discussion around how insurer adapts during the lockdown, and also resilience to commercialize, make sure that we can sustain our services to the customer, and then start take opportunity, looking for the new opportunities based on the new need from the customer. Workforce safety net, of course, I think the first priority that we see in the senior CEO take the bold step to make transition of the remote work. Customer expectation and experience is become the big driver and make changes in many areas of insurance interaction with the customer, and also linked to distribution channels. And as you mentioned about the product innovation to serve the new need with more speed and agilities. Future growth and new business creation, I did mention about the ecosystem partnerships and also the trends of the, for example, e-commerce market acceleration, and also linked to the ecosystem have more broader perspective for the insurer can tap opportunity linked to the customer demands. Of course, digital acceleration across the value chain, that we see the rise of digital in everywhere, from the back end to front end, primary activity and support activity that we discussed along the value chain. And of course, remote working and workforce management, because the people, it becomes very, very important in terms of the innovation and make changes. When I have a discussion internally with the team, when we talk about the innovation things, technology becomes the last thing. We start with the people first, and to see how people would like and mindset to thinking about what we have done today, it may not be the same in the past. And already proved from the COVID pandemic example that we have think beginning of the year and today that we act and doing in live in day in life is not the same. So I think this is all the 6 key themes that I like to summarize for the today topics. Erik, do you have any points to add?
Well, no, I wouldn't. Not on these points. I think this really summarizes it to my mind, and I think for me one of the common themes is acceleration. Because I would also say that not all of these themes are new because of COVID, but I think they've just been amplified and accelerated because of it. Like everybody was already talking about customer expectation, customer experience, how to better make use of digitization in customer interaction. I think that it has almost taken a shock event like this for people to almost be forced to have to act now and not stick to the drawing board only. And obviously there are still up to today and I think well into next year or maybe even longer, there'll be impacts on the real economy and the real world around us, and that will impact all of us as well. But that's also a reality of everyday life, right? I mean, insurers have to be able to adapt to a changing world around them, but the world has changed so significantly, so quickly. So I think it's the size and the scale on the one hand, and it's the acceleration of a lot of initiatives on the other hand. And then especially for me, the things that are really new coming out of this are everything to do with what you said, resilience if a shock event like this happens, and again the people side of things. That is completely different from what it was 12 months ago.
So thank you, Erik. I would like to take this opportunity to seek some sharings, perception from the participant in this event by giving the polls question, and would like to hear from what are your business priority in the new realities. So I give the 1 minute to get the answer from participants. Be some answer that we can see. And after this, I think we will move to the Q&A sessions to around collect questions that we can spend the less time for answer. Okay, I think we have some answer already. It pretty much, I think every area that we have talking about it also in their priorities. I think they're not surprised, as you mentioned. And also what you mentioned already is a new thing. It's just about the acceleration from the pandemic that to make everything more quicker and more speed. So I would like to move to the next on the Q&A to allow our participants to send the questions, and then we can use spend time the rest to answer some questions from them. I look at my mobile to have the question coming. Okay, Rick, may I pick first one to seek your perspective? How are the regulators in Asia reacting to the COVID-19 recoveries that you have observed?
Thanks for that one, Itthipat. I would say there's maybe two things I would want to say. One is there's been a lot of response from the regulators. I would say predominantly as a consequence of the reductions in interest rate and the implication of solvency. I think it's been all hands on deck for every regulator to monitor the situation in local markets. I think where most of the debate has been with regulators coming out of or thinking ahead in dealing with the situation has been around how to enable insurers to digitally interact with agents and customers. I think in a lot of countries in Asia, particularly, there is still a requirement for wet signatures under contracts. But obviously, if you need to get a signature, there needs to be either an exchange of physical information or there needs to be personal interaction for people to place that wet signature. So there have been a lot of discussions around how can you actually resolve that or create temporary relief or maybe change regulation so that you allow companies to actually innovate. Because one thing is for companies to want to innovate and find different ways to take their role in society and to be able to sell business to their customers. But if they are physically unable, maybe at some points the changes in regulation should maybe be considered to facilitate that. So I think that's on most agendas right now, to what extent certain regulations should be updated to also reflect the new reality that is not here for the short term, but is going to stay.
So thank Erik. Move to the second one. I think interesting to hear your views. How should Asia insurers address from other market legacy technology and processes while moving toward the digital transformation journey?
Yeah, that's a very good one. Obviously, I mean, legacy issues are not new to the insurance industry, right? They were there, and insurers have been having to deal with that forever. Because the consequence, of course, of solving legacy issues is generally costly. So what I think and what I see a lot of companies do is to not try to do everything at the same time. That I think would also be my advice, because there is pressure on cost and people are not necessarily looking at wholesale transformations that address everything at the same time. I think the immediate pressure over the past 6 months has been, how do we make sure we stay in business? How do we make sure we stay relevant? And how do we make sure we can continue to interact with our customers? And that generally requires investment in new technology or upgrading existing technology. Obviously, one of the clear next questions is, well, if we're doing all these things differently, are there then also things we could stop doing or we should stop doing? And then how can we use that to create capacity or maybe save cost to fund some of those investments? To my mind, the reality is that a lot of people haven't reached the point to really think that through. I think they've been much more busy to think through the challenge of what do we need to change and what do we need to do differently to stay in business and to stay relevant.
So thanks, Erik. Another one that interesting that when regarding the trends, what are the key trends observed in Asia about ecosystem partnerships to build toward the new realities?
I think to my mind that one also somewhat sits in the category. It's not new because of COVID, but I think some of it has been accelerated as a result of it. There are a lot of partnerships, and there have been a lot of partnerships, and actually some insurers thrive or have it in their main strategy to build ecosystems around them to be relevant to their customers and to find new customers and to connect with their customers. I think it's been fair to say that insurers that were digitally more advanced and those with significant digital ecosystems generally were digitally more advanced have been able to pick business up more quickly than those that didn't. So in terms of acceleration, I think there's been a bigger realization for people that if you don't have the right partners and you're not part of the right ecosystem, you might actually lose out longer term. And when it comes to partnerships, I think that comes back to the point that we talked about earlier about connecting to customers and continuing to connect to customers. And that is, on the one hand, I talked about agents, but it's absolutely the same for brokers or existing partners, like, for example, banks, and a lot of bank distribution arrangements across Asia, and they deal with similar digital challenges as other companies. And then there is the point around are there new or other partnerships that we could be seeking out to connect with our customers in the future? Yeah, I think all very relevant topics.
Good. So maybe we have 5 minutes left. Would like to address the last question for today. How do you see next year's situation for insurance industry? I think that's what I'd like to have combined from where you're coming from in Hong Kong, and then I will probably share my view in Thailand. So over to you first.
I think we're not out of trouble yet, right? As a world, I would say. So I think next year is going to be a difficult year, because right now we've all been given hope by news about vaccines that actually is a lot better and a lot more positive than I probably would have thought before. But I think as a result of that, you find that everybody would like everything to be solved next week or in December or January. I fear the reality is going to be really different. Financial markets have really rebounded, but the real economy, I think, is still struggling, especially in certain sectors. If we talk about tourism or leisure or retail, I think the world over, those industries are still in a really difficult place, and I really hope that everybody is able to pull through. I think a lot of companies, and especially the SMEs, I think have eaten deeply into their reserves and savings to make it through. Governments have supported, but how long can everybody sustain that? And I hope everybody's able to sustain that until we start getting back to normality. And I hope that over the course of next year, we are going to go back to some form of normality, because I think what we've had to go through over the past year is something that you and I and nobody else, I think, has ever seen before, and also something that we'd rather not see for more than another year, because longer term, I think that is going to lead to real complications in the real economy. And obviously, as a sector and for the industry, I'm really positive despite all these complexities and all these challenges, because I think on an overall basis, I think I started by the session by talking about the impact that this situation has had on people realizing the importance of insurance and the importance of insurance to society. I think that is going to stay. and I really hope that the industry is able to continue to articulate that in a way that resonates with society, and that is really going to leave and make a lasting difference. And on that basis, I think there's a lot of challenge for everybody, but I think there's a lot of, from an insurance perspective, I'd like to think that there are more opportunities than there are threats, and that I see as a very positive thing. But I think it's going to be hard work over the next 12 months for all of us.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Erik. I think the situation next year is to be tough according to the economics condition that we observe and seen in the sector that beyond insurance industry. But with I also have a positive perspective about the perception of the customer changes that see the value of insurance protections. And I also see, even though we have a difficult time, many insurance companies in Thailand I know, they still continue to invest in terms of the how to better improve interaction with the customer with the digitals, improve the way to operate in the way of the new realities. We see about the platform built or the initiatives a lot that to allow them to capture the new opportunity when the economy come back to normal, and even to build the reskilling the people to allow them to be able to up to the speed and capture more opportunity when it's come. So I think important for the human being, the hope and positive view for the future. It helps us to drive the positive energies toward the difficulty, no matter what. So Erik, so I think today appreciate your time, and also appreciate all the participants today to joining our event. So we would like to thank you again joining our event, and then looking forward to seeing you in the next future event that KPMG have. So by now, stay safety and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Itthipat. Goodbye. Have a good day, everybody.